Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Students of the Word. Tonight is session number 87. And tonight we are going to first start off by doing a bit of an overview of paragraph 14. It's time to make sure to do that check that I always like to do to make sure we're not missing the forest for the trees, right? We've been going through sentence by sentence and really thinking through the, word by word and sentence by sentence through paragraph 14. Tonight, we just finished discussing the final sentences of that last week. And so I wanted to step back a little bit and not only take a larger view of that whole paragraph, but actually back up a couple paragraphs and see where we're sort of headed, how that all is connecting together. And then if we get through that, then we'll have a go and start on paragraph 15. So let's get into it. It's the completion of God's love. That's my theory about what we're going to be looking at tonight. But let's see. So I'm going to resist the temptation, strong though it is, to start at the very beginning. We may refer back to earlier paragraphs, but I want to start on I want to start here. So where's here? So this is paragraph 8, what we were looking at a lot last time. Paragraph 9, the famous sin paragraph. And then we've got paragraph 10, where we're talking about Cain and not being like Cain, ending with let's not love with word or with tongue, but in deed and truth. Okay, so that was 10. So I want to start here with paragraph 11. I want to start with the paragraph of the commandments and move forward from there. Start with the center and then read forward. So it's going to be a good bit of reading. But again, remember the point here is to begin to see not just patterns and connections between paragraph 14 and the later parts, and the other paragraphs, but following the sort of the overall flow and patterns of the argument. Now, as we've talked about many times before, John doesn't construct an argument in the same way that like Paul does. But nevertheless, there is a kind of flow, and I want to make sure that we're not missing it. Okay. We will know in this that we are of the truth. Sorry, I'm just debating. No, I'll read it in the NASB. We will know in this that we are of the truth, and will assure our heart before him in whatever our heart condemns us, for God is greater than our heart and knows all things. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence before God. And whatever we ask, we receive from him, because we keep his commandments and do the things that are pleasing in his sight. This is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another just as he commanded us. The one who keeps his commandments abides in him, and he in him. We know in this that he abides in us by the Spirit, by the breathing whom he has given us, that he has given us. Okay. That's the actual statement of the commandment, right? And then we end this paragraph with the in joke, right? We know in this that he abides in us by the Spirit whom he has given us, the breathing whom he has given us. Okay, so this is we get the commandment. He reiterates the mutual abiding, right? The one who keeps his commandments abides in him, and he in him. We know in this that he abides in us by the Spirit, by the breathing whom he has given us. And that's the very first usage of the word Spirit in the book. And it's the beginning of the transition into the Spirit section, right? The breathing section. So we know that he abides in us because he's given us his breathing. He has breathed into us. And notice how this is connected to the mutual abiding. The one who keeps his commandments abides in him, and he in him. Now, that metaphor, the abiding metaphor, the remaining metaphor, the indwelling metaphor, has become so familiar that it's possible John has used this so many times over the course of the epistle to this point, that we may perhaps be becoming a little bit inured to it, right? It may kind of be starting to roll off us a little bit, but it's worth remembering, right? That he's talking about dwelling in us like you dwell in a house, and us dwelling in him. Like he is the place where we live, and we are the place where he lives, where we remain. And that link, we know in this that he abides in. How do we know that he is living within us? By the breathing, because he is breathed into us. So the breathing of the Spirit into us is being explicitly connected here in this sort of transitional way to this mutual abiding, which is connected in turn to our keeping the commandments. Okay, so let's keep going. Beloved, do not believe every breathing, but test the breathings to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. So from the beginning of this transitional point, we're being told, now, keep in mind, yes, God has breathed into you, but there's breathings happening all over the place, right? There's breathings and breathings, as C.S. Lewis might say. So there are breathings. Many false prophets have gone out into the world. In other words, others have other breathings besides the breathing of God are at work. So don't believe every breathing. Now remember, the transition to the breathing was about this is how we know that he abides in us, because of the breathing that we've received. And then he follows that up immediately in the beginning of the next paragraph with, but be careful of breathings, right? There's a bunch of other breathings out there that might try to deceive you and maybe lead you to think you know something else, right? Instead of knowing that he abides in us. Many false prophets have gone out into the world, into the cosmos. Cosmo, really important word in this whole section. In this, you know the breathing of God. Every breathing that homologons, that says the same, that Jesus the Christ, that Jesus the Messiah has come in the flesh, is from God. That's what the breathings from God say. And every breathing that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not from God. This is the spirit, this is the breathing of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming, and now it is already in the world. In the world. The false prophets have gone out into the world. The Antichrist is in the world, like it's abiding in the world, like God is abiding in us, and we are abiding in God. So now we have this full parallel. It was hinted at the very beginning. Don't believe every breathing. God has breathed into you, but there are other breathings at work here, right? And so the parallel, God breathing into us and something else breathing into somebody else, right? That parallel was implied at the beginning of verse 1 there, and now comes around to be more explicit. And notice, again, the involvement of the world here. The Antichrist is in the world like God is in us. And there's breathing involved. There's a spirit involved. You are from God. You are ex Theo, little children, and have overcome them, the false prophets. Again, remember the parallel. We are the opposite number, or the false prophets are our opposite number, right? Those who have received those other breathings. But don't worry, because we have overcome them, our opposite numbers, because greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. Why do we overcome our parallel numbers, our opposite numbers? Because God's opposite number is much lesser than he, right? Both have been breathing into people in the world, right? But the one breathing into us is greater than he who is breathing into the world, into the false prophets. They are ex to cosmo. They are from the world. They're derived from the world. Therefore, they speak, they breathe as from the world, and the world listens to them. We are ex Theo, ex to Theo. We are from God, not from the world. So notice we've got John's two favorite prepositions heavily represented here, in and from. Um, a lot of that here. They are from the world, therefore they speak as from the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God. The one who knows God listens to us. How do you know that abides in you? Because of the breathing, because of the Spirit, because God has breathed his Spirit in them. And God is so, yeah. So they listen to us. The ones who know God, the one in whom God is also abiding. The one who is not ex toutheu does not listen to us. By this we know the breathing of truth and the breathing of error, of going astray. Beloved, let's love one another. Now, what is this transition about? It almost sounds like all of this, like, be like aware of the false prophets and the breathings and their breathing, which the world is listening to, and the breathing of he who is in the world and of the Antichrist. Um, you know, so be careful about that. Be aware of the fact that the world is going to listen to them, and stuff. And then, like, so let's love one another. Sounds like, a kind of, as I say, a sort of a changing of the subject, almost, right? Um, but let's think about happier things. Let's love one another, for love is from God. Right? I don't want you to be afraid. We're going to get to that in a little bit, right? Don't worry about the whole false prophet thing, right? Just love one another, for love is from God. However, I don't think that this is a change of subject. Let's love one another. How do we know already from the beginning, if we're careful readers, that this is not a change of subject? Let's love one another. Why? This is not just a happy suggestion here, right? Love one another. Well, that's the commandment. This is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his son, Jesus Christ, and love one another. And the one who keeps his commandments abides in him and he in him. So no, we're still talking about abiding, actually, that mutual abiding. We're still talking about the breathing, God's breathing into us, which was connected with, which was associated with God's abiding in us and the mutual abiding, right? So when he says, let's love one another, he's not just being like, oh, I've got an idea, right? How we might, like, pass the time or try to stay positive, right? He's saying, so remember, let's keep the commandments. Let's keep the commandments. Love one another. That's the commandment. That's the command. So it's not like how we, I don't know, would distract ourselves from the, danger or opposition or something like that. It's how we keep from being the opposition ourselves, right? How we remain, how we abide in God and God in us, by keeping the commandments. Let's love one another. We should love one another. We ought to love one another. For love is ex toutheu. Just like, again, second favorite preposition, just like we are from God. Verse 6. We are from God. The one who knows God listens to us. Love is from God. Love is from God. And everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. So notice how we're going back. Again, remember like the sequence. Keep the commandments. God abides in you and you in him. Breathing of the Spirit, right? Those are the three ways in which he talked about the sort of the order in which he talked about those things back in paragraph 11, right? Now he's coming back to the commandment. Let's love one another. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Everyone who loves, everyone who keeps the commandment knows God. God abides in him and the breathing, right? Okay. The not loving one does not know God because God is love. By this, the love of God was manifested in us, was revealed in us. That God, yeah, manifested, ephanerothe, in us. By this, the love of God was manifested in us, that God has sent his only Son into the world so that we may live through him. And this is a first of several times that we will see the business about God sending his Son into the world. The apostolkin word, the sending thing. How was the love of God manifested? How was it made apparent? How was it made real and tangible? By God sending his only Son into the world. By the way, do you remember how this is fulfilling promises from way, way, way back? Paragraph 1. The word of life stuff. And the life was manifested, and we have seen and testify and proclaim to you the life of the age, which was with the Father and was manifested to us. What we have seen and heard, we proclaim to you also. He said he was going to proclaim to us how the life, the word of life, was manifested to us. This is how it was manifested. By this, the love of God was manifested in us, that God has sent his only Son into the world, just like the false prophets were going into the world. So God sent his Son into the world so that we may live on account of him, by means of him. So again, notice he doesn't call him the life here like he did in paragraph 1, but it's our life, right? So you see how if we put those two things together, now both of them say much more than they do alone, right? So good how John does this. Anyway, by this love of God was revealed in us, that God has sent his only Son into the world so that we may live by means of him. In this is love. Here we're Hebrew poetrying again, right? 9 and 10, saying the same thing twice in different ways. In this is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent again his Son, propitiation. His Son, propitiation. Sent his Son for our sins. His Son, propitiation. In that is love. That was why he sent his Son into the world. His Son. He sent the propitiation for our sins. He's defining love. Now, remember the context. Why are we talking about all this? Why are we describing the love of God? Why are we talking about how the love of God is manifested? Well, remember, we started with, hey, let's love one another. Let's keep the commandment. So in large part, what we're getting here is, what is a commandment about? Why is that important? Loving one another. Hey, we ought to love one another. Actually. And here's why. God, the love of God is revealed that he sent his Son, propitiation, into the world for our sins, that we may live through him. Yeah, Jackie is thinking about the good infection Lewis describes in Mere Christianity. Yes, the infection of God's love, loving us, and then through us loving others, right? Yes. Beloved, if God loved us in this way, if God thus loved us, we also ought to love one another. We are obligated to love one another. And remember the double meaning of that. On the one hand, it's like, if God loved us so much, the least we could do is love other people. right? I mean, if God has given us so great a gift, surely we can give the same gift to others. But it isn't just that. Why ought we? Why, like, are we obligated? Because remember, the Greek is stronger there than that sounds. We're obligated to love one another because God is love. And the not loving one does not know God. To know God, to be, to live through him, the life that we have, the life that we are given that enables us to live is love. It's the only life we have. And so we're obligated to love one another. We're not just like following his example, but his love is living in us. And that's the way in which we live through him. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is made perfect, and his love is completed in us. God abides in us, and his love is completed in us. Our loving one another is the perfection, the completion, the bringing to fulfillment. It is the fulfillment. Remember that same word, that same Greek word here translated perfected, is the same word that Jesus used when he said he didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. Just as Jesus was the fulfillment of the law, so is our love for each other the fulfillment of God's love. And that is crazy. That is crazy. Crazy to think. And notice how he links it directly to God abiding in us. If God abides in us and God is love, then we are full of love. We will be full of love. And we, of course, can recall earlier on him saying that he who does not love his brother is still in darkness. How can you be so sure, John? Right? Maybe somebody could be in the light and not love his brother. No, no, actually, you can't. By this, we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given to us of his Spirit. Now, isn't that what he just said? We know by this that he abides in us, by the Spirit whom he has given us. By this we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit. I didn't even notice how almost exactly word for word that was. It's in 2 chapters, so that's going to be fun, but let's just look at this here. In tuto gynaskolmen, by this we know, hoti, that, en auto, in him, menomen, in him we abide, kai, autos in hemen, and he in us, hoti, that, in that, ek to pneumatos, out of the spirit of him, pneumatos autou, de doken hemen. He has given us from his spirit. And I think that's less word for word than the NASB leads us to believe, but let's see. Okay. Kai, hoteron tas entolos, the one keeping the commandment, auto. And auto mene abides in him, kai autos in auto, in him, and he in him. Kai entuto gnoskomen, right? And in this we know, hoti, mene and hemen, ek tu pneumatos. Oh, ek tu pneumatos, hu hemen edoken. It is very similar, but I see what misled me. How did I miss this? Did we miss this? I was, I know I was focusing a lot on in here, on the in joke here. But did I miss this? That in both places? No. Yes. The NASB. Yeah, I think we missed the act there, Randall. I can't even believe it. The NASB translates it by the Spirit. We know in this that he abides in us, ek the Spirit he has given us, from the Spirit he has given us, not by the Spirit, from the Spirit. Ek to pneumatos. We totally missed that. Both of them. The interlinear even translates it by. Does both of them. There isn't a by in this sentence. And both of them have two. So not only do the English translations conceal the actual prepositions used, but it gives the impression he's using the same preposition in both places, and he's not using it either time, and they're different. Oh. Um, yes, Randall, yet again, the translations play fast and loose with the prepositions. Oh my goodness. Okay. We know in this that he abides in us, ek to pneumatos, out of the Spirit whom he has given us. That's what our knowledge is from. I know, Scott, when we can't even trust the interlinear to give it to us straight, at least you can see though, right? I mean, like we know what n means, right? And so when you see the by next to the n, you know what's going on, right? And I can't believe I missed that, but I think we did miss that. Yeah. Um, Now, I mean, of course, like, again, I don't be overly critical. I'm not trying to be a jerk to the translators. They have a difficult job. And one of their jobs, of course, is to make the final product readable in English. Um, what I'm trying to do is something quite different than what the translators are trying to do. The translators are trying to make it make good and intuitive sense to English readers. That is not my interest. My interest is to try to think in Greek, right? Is to try to think in the terms that John is using as much as possible. Um, and of course, it's easier when you have an hour to talk about a sentence, right? You can spend a lot of time, making sense of it and thinking about the sense that it may or may not make in English or whatever. Um, Whereas when you're producing a translation, which people are going to read at speed, you're in a different place. Um, but yeah, yeah. And yeah, Randall, exactly. Prepositions are notoriously difficult to translate. They're idiomatic in every language. It's so true. Uh, However, nevertheless, I'm irked. Okay. I'm irked at myself. I can't believe I got so distracted by the ends that I missed the ek. By this we know that he abides in us from the Spirit, whom he has given to us. So it is closely similar to the second one. In this, we know that we abide in him and he in us because he has given to us of his Spirit. But yeah, exactly, Randall. Eck points to the source. So the first time here, at the end of paragraph 11, he said, in this we know. What do we know? In what do we know that he abides in us? We know from the Spirit that he has given us. It's his breathing, it's his Spirit that he has given to us. And notice something important here. Um, okay. So Spirit is genitive with ek. So hang on, when ek takes the genitive, is that going to explain this to us here? No, it doesn't just like say it. Ek always takes the genitive? Okay, fine. Good. Well, that's simple enough then. Motion away from. Okay, great. Okay, so this is in the genitive because it's the object of the preposition. So we've got by the Spirit. So what's what is the direct object of given of a doken? By this, I don't think it has one. It's got an indirect object to us. Who? Whom? Except that's genitive too. Is it just genitive because it has to agree with pneumatos? But because he's using the pronoun here, basically stands in as the indirect object, or as the direct object, rather? Right. Okay. Funky. All right. Uh, okay. Because I'm looking for the accusative case, of course, to see what the direct object is. Right. So Randall's saying it'd literally be of the Spirit or from the Spirit of which he has given us. Yeah. Yeah, so it implies that's kind of the thing that I was getting at. That's the thing that he seems to come around to more strongly the second time. The giving of thing. So because let's go back down to that here. Paragraph verse 13. Bum bum bum. Okay. Um in this en tuto ginoskomen hoti, we know what? We know that we abide in him and he in us. Hoti, in that ek tu pneumatos autu, from his spirit he has given to us. So he's doing the same thing here, basically the same thing. He has given to us in the dative, indirect object. We're the ones being given to. From the Spirit. He has given to us from the Spirit. Now, the overall syntactic construction was different. No, not really. He's still starting with in this we know. In this we know. So we've got the two hoti clauses, right? We've got in this we know. The first hoti clause is like, what is it that we know? Right? We know that we abide in him and he in us. That's what we know, right? But how do we know it? We know that thing, hoti, in that ek tu pneumatos autu dedoken hemen, because he has given to us from the Spirit. Whereas the first time, we know hoti, he abides in us. Ek tu pneumatos hu hemen edoken. So the first is one of the main things that's different is the tense of the verb. Edoken is in the aorist tense. He's talking about that time when he gave us the Spirit in the past. There was the Spirit giving event. The second time, he's using the perfect tense. Yeah, exactly. Randall, I agree. Randall says it's the same elements, but moved around like he's looking at it from a different angle. And one of the angles seems to be that tense. I wish I could get these on the same page. The Greek, I mean. Hang on. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to actually screenshot that. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to go back. All right. I want to understand this. Okay. In tuto, genus exactly the same. In tuto, genus hoti. That's precisely the same. In this, we know that now one difference is that he he separates us into two separate hoti clauses later on. I'm not so worried about that. That doesn't seem to really change the final construction. He just emphasizes the second time he emphasizes the mutual abiding. The first time it's just he abides in us, right? That he abides, we abide in him and he in us because hoti, ek tu pneumatos, because from the Spirit, okay. In both cases, it's indicative active. It's the tense. He gave, he has given. And he calls it the spirit of him. That doesn't seem to me a major change. He calls it his spirit. Um, the who is the different construction here, and the tense. Also, of course, the word order. Instead of Haman Edoken, we have Dedoken Haman. So the first time he ends the sentence with the verb. How do we know? By the giving of his spirit, from his spirit to us. How do we know? He has given his spirit to us. Right? He ends with Haman there at the end. Yeah, Randall, that makes a lot of sense to me. Um, that the aorist tense, the first time, emphasizes the action itself. And that seems to fit with him putting that verb last in the sentence. And the second time, in the perfect tense, emphasizes the result of the action. It's certainly the perfect tense certainly emphasizes the completion of the action, right? Not just alluding to an event from before. So yeah, the emphasis is on the event. How do we know? Well, how do we know he abides in us? Because he gave from his spirit. That's how. The giving, that giving that happened. Because from his spirit, he has given to us. Yeah. Emphasis on what God did. That's how we know. So if you're anxious, that's how you know. Second time, emphasis uh on us. Because remember, that's what this whole paragraph's been about. I'm gonna hold on to that. Okay, I'm gonna hold on to my screenshot there. Right? Um, because remember, it's been about this paragraph. Where are we? Yes, this paragraph. Paragraph, what is it? 13. Paragraph 13 has been about love. Let's love one another. Why ought we to love one another? Let's now rethink. He said the commandment, and he said what happens if we keep the commandment, and referred at the end of that paragraph to the giving of his spirit, of his breathing to us. And then he went on to talk about the competitive environment in which that breathing is operating among these other breathings, and we among the other operators, the other recipients of the other breathing, right? And then he comes back to, but let's think about the commandment more. Why ought we to love one another? Love is from God, right? So he's done all this stuff and then comes back to, by this, in this we know that we abide in him and he in us. In that, because he has given to us. He has given of his spirit to us. This, remember, is following directly after that mind-blowing thing about God's love being fulfilled in us. How does that work? Because he has given of his Spirit to us. He has breathed his life into us. That's why he sent his son propitiation into the world. This paragraph emphasizes the radical thing that has been done for us and to us. That we might not only be called the children of God, but that God's love itself might be fulfilled through us, through our loving one another. Keeping the commandment isn't just the entry fee. It's not just a prerequisite to the abiding, which, you could theoretically take it that way before. If you keep his commandments, then he abides in you and you in him. Right? So that's the prerequisite. If you meet the prerequisite, then, the mutual abiding can ensue. But that isn't how it works. The keeping of the commandment is the fulfillment of God's love. In keeping his commandment, why ought we to do it? Not for, our own shrewd self-interest, right? Because, we'll get to be called the children of God and get all kinds of things, right? We'll be on the fast track to being like him. We're going to become gods. All we got to do is keep the commandments. What a bargain. But no, keeping the commandments is the fulfillment of God's love, the completion of his love. In this we know that we abide in him because from his Spirit, he has given to us. Yeah, so John almost repeats himself, but doesn't quite repeat himself. In the context of paragraph 13 here, it's saying something a little different. Now, we have seen and bear witness that the Father has sent the Son, third time now, has sent the Son, another one of those are positives, has sent the Son, the Savior of the world. First time using that word. Whoever says the same, that Jesus is the Son of God, God abides in him and he in God. Yes, Stephen. Stephen says, man was made in the image of God. An image is only proper when it reflects the original. Yes, you're right, Stephen. I did. Stephen, you've pointed this out many times, and it's been very, very useful. I think you're absolutely correct. To be thinking back to Genesis, you're frequently bringing us very appropriately back to Genesis, whether it's Genesis 3, as we saw, for instance, in the poem, or Genesis 4, and in paragraph 6, and then Genesis 4, of course, with the Cain and Abel stuff that we got back up there in paragraph 10. And I agree with you. We're in Genesis 1 here as well. Yes. And Susan, I agree. Susan says it's this endless recursion that echoes he and you in him. Yes, the image reflecting the original. Yes. Remember also, in the context of Genesis 1, that is, in the context of the historical world in which the book of Genesis is written, what does image mean? I mean, if you said to a random Babylonian, contemporary Babylonian, and you talked about the image of God, what would they be thinking of? They'd be thinking about an image, maybe something like the image that Nebuchadnezzar erects of himself in the beginning of you know, what was it? Chapter 3, chapter 4, Daniel? Um, uh, the fiery furnace chapter. Um, yeah, yeah. You make images, or the image of Dagon, which fell on its face before the Ark of the Covenant, for instance, right? Those are images of God. Those are like that's Daniel. It was Daniel 3, right? Immediately after Daniel 2, of course. When the whole giant statue thing goes to Nebuchadnezzar's head. Anyway, uh, the image. So when you talk about, so notice how close, Stephen, is the relationship between that image stuff, the being man being made and mankind being made in God's image in Genesis 1, and this abiding language as well. Because what happens when you make an image of a god, a graven image of a god, and you put it up in your temple, like again, not if you're a Jew, obviously, but if you're a non-Jew, right? If you're contemporary to the Jews, if you're one of those other people in that world in which the Torah was written, if you make a graven image and you put it in a temple, what happens? What's meant to happen with the image? Well, the God is meant to come and abide in it, right? I mean, that's what happens. And now, of course, there's a different idea of this from the Jewish perspective, right? The abiding of God at the Ark of the Covenant, at the tabernacle, in the temple, right? That's how God abides, right? But that's how Yahweh abides. But this idea of abiding in the image, that's normal, right? That's the standard concept. So yes, the way in which we as images are meant not only to reflect, to not just to be like him, but to have God abide in us. As mind blowing as it seems to us that we are like the temple, that God abides in us, that God dwells in us, that God's presence is made manifest in us. That's what we're for. That is God's plan made perfect, made complete, fulfilled, like Jesus said he was going to fulfill the Torah. Um, yeah. So, Stephen, thank you for the Genesis 1 reminder. You're absolutely correct about that. And yes, sorry, somebody was talking about uh, talking about Moses' shining face as well, reflecting the light of God back as, yes, yes. That was, Moses was like the sort of preview close encounter, right? Where like the full abiding didn't happen. And remember, God was like, Moses asked for it. And God was like, yeah, it's not gonna pan out for you, right? I'm not gonna do that, because it would destroy you. But that's why, again, I keep talking about how crazy this is, because you'd think that's what would happen, right? Um, I mean, after all, that's what happened if you even go into the Holy of Holies, right? Um, Death and the presence of God have been closely linked throughout the Hebrew Bible. And yet, um, and yet, whoever confesses, whoever says the same, that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, God abides in him and he in God. And you're right, Susan, the curtain is torn. Yes, yes. Um, and y'all will remember that we were talking about this. I kind of skimmed over it just now in our reread. Um, but where was it? Not the false prophets. Yes, Verse 12. No one has ever seen God. Yeah. If we love one another, God abides in us. This is how, this is why, perhaps, perhaps we're being given a glimpse here when, of what God's plan is, why God is doing it this way, why God's love is fulfilled in us. We are meant to be just as the Ark of the Covenant was born before the people, just as the tabernacle was erected in the wilderness and God dwelt among his people, just as the temple was built as the place for worship, the place where the people could come and worship before the glory of God. So God's love is fulfilled in us. This, of course, is why we ought to love one another, right? Because this is how no one has seen God at any time. Um, that doesn't work out. We are the medium. God has sent, remember that sending, the three times God sent his son. God sent his son into the world. God manifested himself, his love in Jesus Christ, his son. And what are the two commandments? That we trust in that, in Jesus who came into the world, who was the savior of the world, the propitiation of the world, the means by which we might live. And that now we are the means by which God's love can be fulfilled. Those are the two halves of the commandment. Trust in the name of Jesus Christ, his son, and love one another. We have come to know and have believed, have trusted the love which God has in us. I want to make sure I'm getting my prepositions right this time. In this we know that in him we abide and he in us, because from the Spirit, from his Spirit, he has given to us. And we have seen and testified. Let me skip ahead a bit. And we have come to know and have come to believe the love. Remember that love, that word is the center of the chiasm here that we talked about. The love that God has in us. God has love in us. He's put his love in us. Like a cup, like a vessel. And God is love. He has put himself in us, in his images. And the abiding in love one abides in God and God in him. God abides in him. In this, love has been perfected, has been fulfilled with us, in cooperation with us. Notice, Randall, I'm thinking about the progression from this one, emphasizing what God did. God gave his breathing to us that time. To the second time, where he emphasizes he's given it to us. God gave it. And the second time, God has given it to us. And because he has given it and it's complete, it has done something to us. And now the third time. In this, love has been perfected with us, in collaboration with us. Love has been fulfilled with us. And so you see that progression? God did something. That thing that God did something to us. And now we do things with him. We fulfill his love with him so that we may have confidence in the day of judgment that just as he is, also we are in this world. Just as he sent his son to be the savior of the world, just as he sent his son propitiation, just as he showed his love by sending his son into the world, he has fulfilled his love by sending us in the world. Just as he is, we also are. Ento Cosmo. Yeah. And that, of course, Randall, as you were just saying before, is hearkening back to the to paragraph 8, that we will see him as he is. Yes. We will be as he is. We will see him as he is. The whole image thing is going to be consummated at a point in the future. But even now, in our relationship with the world, we are kathos ekenos estin, just as he is. Ekenos, that's the demonstrative. That's that one, right? Just as that one is. Yeah. Yeah. Far out. I love that progression. Anyway, see what cool things we notice when we go back and look at the big picture a little bit, see how this, it's really, really great to do the zooming in that we do, and those are the building blocks, right? But we got to keep panning out. Um, this reminds me, by the way, so when we get to the end, and I say when we get to the end because we're about to start the final paragraph in chapter 4, at which point we'll be like 80% of the way done with the First John. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Um, but um, but anyway, when we get to the end, you know what I'm going to want to do, right? Go back and reread the whole book again a couple times, right? Big picture, right? Read through the whole thing. I want to read through the whole thing end to end, probably more than once, right? To be able to see these kind of bigger pictures. But we have a little bit of time left, so let's peek on ahead. Paragraph 15, right? Right? Because it was 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah. Paragraph 15. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear involves punishment, and the one who fears is not fulfilled in love. Whoa, okay. I'm going to struggle with that sentence, I know. We're going to need a whole next time to talk about that. We love because he first loved us. If someone says, oh, we're back to if somebody says, we haven't done that in a while. If someone says, I love God, and yet he hates his brother or sister, he's a liar. For the one who does not love his brother and sister whom he has seen cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, that the one who loves God must also love his brother and sister. Okay. Love it. Okay. Let's skim. So we have our big new word in verse 18, phobos, fear. We've not talked about fear. Um, uh, phobos, there is no fear in ente agape, in love, but Allah, telia. So this is completed, fulfilled love. It's adjective form. Fulfilled love casts out fear. I can't wait to look into casts out. I'll do some word study there. Casts out fear. Sounds like we're kind of talking about something that is sort of like unclean breathings, doesn't it? Anyway, hoti, in that the fear kolasin, a fear has kolasin, has punishment. Huh, that is super weird. Well, no, it's not super weird. As you say, Randall, um, it makes perfect sense given that we've just been talking about the day of judgment. So we got our judge for our courtroom scene. And this is the sentence, right? Presumably, the sentence that the judge hands down, something like that. Okay. Okay. Can't wait to talk about that. Fear has punishment, just like God had his love in us. Same verb there. We just studied this verb. We know about that. Everything, doubtless, everything about it. But we just studied this, right? This is the super generic word for have. Vaguely to possess. The fearing one has has not been fulfilled in love. Whoa. What does that mean? To be fulfilled into agape. Man, we might need 2 sessions to talk about verse 18. That is some really interesting stuff. Um, yes, I was thinking about that, Randall. Randall saying that punishment for kolasin. Um, uh, Punishment is the King James translates that as torment, torture, which literally means torture. Um, that is to translate the word torment from 17th century English. Um, to send someone to torment means literally to send someone to the torture chamber. Uh, so yeah, yeah. Punishment a little bit better than torture as the translation of kolasin. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there. It's been fulfilled in love. Okay, cool. Anyway, all right. Uh, we love hoti, he, protos. Huh, that's new. He first loved us. That I don't think he's used that word. Protos, first. This sense of, primacy. Yeah, interesting. If anyone, wait a second, you're right. First is an adjective. Oh, yeah. It's an adjective modifying he. It's not an adverb. It's not he loved us first. It's he the first loved us. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's going to be fun. All right. And uh, if somebody should say agapo, tantheon. So the hoti here is our introduction of our direct quotation. Should say, hey, I love God. And tona delphon autu, mise, and he, happens to hate his brother. Psustes estin. He's a liar. Ho gar. Ooh, gar. Okay, sorry. Love me a conjunction. For me agapon, for not loving the brother of him whom he has seen. Whoa. Oh, this is going to be awesome syntax. The one not loving the brother of him whom he has seen, God whom he has not seen, he is not able to love. I can see why they changed the syntax in English, but that is so much cooler. Okay. Not able. Dunatai does not have the power to love. Dunamis, that's the power word, right? Um, yeah, like to have the capability. Yeah. Does not have the power to love. And Kai Tauten and this, that's like the entuto, right? Kai Tauten, ten and toen. And this is the commandment ekomen. We have, there's our have word again. We have from him. Up again. Oh, we've seen up before, but it's been a while. We have from him, Hina, that the loving one, wait, the loving one God should love also? The God loving one. Yes, gotcha. That the God loving one, yes, God is accusative, right? The God loving one. Gotcha. God is a direct object of loving. The God loving one should also love. Should also love? Present subjunctive. Yeah. Ought to love his brother. Yeah. Okay. Whoo. So, one thing that we can see, notice where he ends up. Where he ends up is the one, the God loving one, must also love his brother. It's the final answer to the question, hey, let's love one another. Why not love one another? Why ought we to love one another? We kind of began that, two paragraphs back, we began that inquiry, right? Loving one another. It's a good idea. Let's discuss why, right? And we've made a good deal of progress, right, in seeing how we come to understand that better. But he's going to really bring it home, right? He's going to really land the plane there at the end of this paragraph. And this commandment we have from him, that the one who loves God must also love his brother. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, next time, verse 18. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to go straight into it because, wow, we get our word fulfilled twice more and in totally different contexts. We get it as an adjective, and then we get that perfect, fulfilled in love, which I don't even know what that means. And then how all of this is connected with fear and the relationship between fear and punishment and all of this in judgment. Whew. All right. Well, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I don't understand it, but remember, I I am far from being daunted by the fact that I don't understand really many of the sentences in this paragraph. There's a lot that I don't understand here. But remember, that's why I talked about First John, why I chose First John to talk about, because I don't get it, right? And why I am, as ever, so thankful to all of you for coming with me and helping me uh, on this journey of understanding, because I feel that I understand First John so much better than I ever have. So I am greatly looking forward to understanding paragraph 15 far better than I currently understand it next time. Um, all right. Thanks very much. Yes, Randall, we are going to have to remember the boldness in judgment. We'll want to go back both to paragraph 14 and paragraph 8 to think about that. All right. Very good. We will leave it there, and next time we will be ready. We will jump straight in to that complicated sentence in verse 18. Thanks very much, everybody, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now.